Welcome back to our channel, where we bring you real-life stories filled with courage, compassion, and unexpected heroes. If you love stories that restore your faith in humanity, make sure to hit that subscribe button and stay with us till the end. Today's story will leave you speechless. It's about a female police officer who was attacked behind a gas station and how a group of feared bikers, the Hells Angels, did something no one could have imagined. It was a quiet evening on the outskirts of a small town in Arizona. The sun had just begun to dip below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and red. Officer Sarah Mitchell, a tough yet kind-hearted cop in her early 30s, was finishing her shift. She'd spent the whole day dealing with minor traffic violations, helping lost tourists, and filing reports. She loved her job, even when it was tough. Sarah believed that every uniformed officer had a duty, not just to enforce the law, but to protect the vulnerable. Around 7:45 p.m., Sarah stopped at a gas station off Highway 19 to grab a cup of coffee before heading home. It was a small, lonely station, one of those places where the flickering neon lights buzzed in the dark. The clerk inside, an old man named Tom, greeted her with a tired smile. "Evenin', Officer Mitchell," he said. "Evening, Tom. How's the night treating you?" She replied. "Quiet, for once. I'll take it while it lasts," he chuckled. But just as Sarah poured herself a cup of coffee, a black van rolled into the station. 3 men stepped out, rough-looking, with tattoos and baggy clothes. They didn't look like regular customers. Something about them made Tom uneasy. Sarah noticed it too, her instincts kicking in. One of the men glared at her badge and muttered, "Cops always snooping around, huh?" Sarah stayed calm, offering a polite but firm smile. "Just grabbing a coffee. You gentlemen have a good night." But they didn't leave it at that. They walked out to the back of the station, talking in low, aggressive tones. Something didn't sit right with Sarah. She paid for her coffee, thanked Tom, and decided to check around back, just to make sure nothing shady was happening. As she walked behind the gas station, the faint hum of passing cars faded away, replaced by the sound of muffled voices. Sarah reached for her flashlight and called out, "Everything okay back here?" Before she could finish, one of the men stepped out of the shadows and swung a metal pipe toward her. She barely dodged it, the pipe grazing her arm. Another man lunged forward, grabbing her radio and smashing it against the wall. "Thought you could spy on us, huh?" One of them sneered. Sarah fought back fiercely. She blocked a punch, countered with a knee to the gut, and tried to reach for her weapon, but the third thug blindsided her, shoving her hard into the wall. Her head hit the concrete, and her vision blurred. She was outnumbered, outmuscled, and her backup was miles away. She managed to grab her pepper spray and hit one of them in the face. He screamed, clutching his eyes, but the other 2 pinned her down. She kicked and shouted, her voice echoing in the empty lot, but there was no one to hear, or so she thought. Just a few hundred feet away, at a roadside diner, a group of bikers had just parked their Harleys. The low rumble of engines filled the air. They were members of the Hells Angels, known to most people as outlaws, tough and untouchable. But that night, something about the commotion near the gas station caught their leader's attention. Jake Red Lawson, a towering man with a thick beard and tattoos down his arms, paused mid-sentence as he heard faint screams carried by the wind. "You guys hear that?" he asked. "Probably just drunks fightin'," one of his crew said. Red shook his head. "No, that didn't sound like drunks. That sounded like someone in trouble." Without hesitation, he kicked his Harley back into gear. The rest of the crew followed, their engines roaring like thunder. They rode toward the sound, gravel spitting under their tires. When they reached the gas station, they saw the van, the broken radio, and something that made their blood boil, a woman in a torn police uniform being held down by 2 thugs. Red revved his engine loud enough to turn every head. The thugs froze for a second, startled by the sudden arrival of 6 massive bikers in leather vests. Red cut the engine, swung his leg off the bike, and walked forward slowly, his eyes burning with fury. "Looks like we showed up just in time," he growled. One of the thugs spat on the ground. "Mind your business, old man." That was the wrong thing to say. In an instant, Red's crew surrounded them. The thugs tried to run, but they didn't get far. One of the bikers, Tank, a mountain of a man, grabbed a thug by the collar and threw him against the wall. Another, nicknamed Ghost, tripped the second man and pinned him to the ground. Red stepped between them and Sarah, extending a hand to help her up. "You all right, officer?" he asked, his tone surprisingly gentle. Sarah, bruised but conscious, nodded. I think so. They destroyed my radio. Don't worry, you're safe now," Red said firmly. The third thug, the one who'd been pepper sprayed, stumbled forward blindly, cursing and swinging wildly. Red didn't even flinch. He took one step forward and punched him square in the jaw, one clean hit that dropped the man to the ground. The Hells Angels tied the 3 of them up using zip ties they carried for emergencies. Red turned to Sarah. "You got cuffs." She nodded weakly and handed them over. Together, they cuffed the attackers and made sure they couldn't escape. Tom, the gas station clerk, came running out, eyes wide. "Dear Lord, what happened?" Sarah managed a shaky smile. "They picked the wrong night and the wrong woman to mess with, and the wrong bikers to do it in front of." Red chuckled. "Ain't that the truth?" While they waited for backup to arrive, Red took off his leather jacket and draped it around Sarah's shoulders. "You're freezing," he said. "Thanks," she said softly, surprised by his kindness. "I didn't think the Hells Angels did rescues." Red shrugged. "People think a lot of things about us. Most of it's wrong. We don't start trouble, but we sure as hell don't ignore it when we see it." Within minutes, sirens wailed in the distance. Sarah's backup finally arrived. 2 patrol cars pulled in, lights flashing. Her partner, Officer Daniels, jumped out of the car, shocked at the scene, 3 cuffed thugs on the ground and a group of bikers standing over them. "What the hell happened here?" he asked. Sarah pointed at the men. "They attacked me. These guys saved my life." Daniels turned to Red. "You guys are Hells Angels, right?" Red nodded slowly. "That's right." Daniels hesitated. "Well, I guess I owe you thanks." Red smiled faintly. "Just doing what's right." The cops took the thugs into custody. Sarah gave her statement while Red and his crew stood quietly nearby. One of the younger officers whispered, "Never thought I'd see the day Hells Angels helped the police." Another muttered, "Maybe we've been judging them wrong all along." As the police wrapped up, Sarah turned back to Red. "I owe you my life," she said sincerely. Red shook his head. "Nah, you owe it to yourself. You fought hard. We just showed up to finish the job." Before leaving, Sarah handed him a card. "If you ever need a favor, anything, call me." Red smirked. "Let's hope I never do. But, thanks, Officer Mitchell." The bikers mounted their Harleys again. Engines roared to life as the red and blue lights flickered behind them. Before riding off, Red looked back one last time and said, "Not all angels have wings, officer. Some ride on 2 wheels." As they disappeared into the night, Sarah stood there, clutching his jacket, feeling the weight of what had just happened. She had faced death that night, and had been saved by the very people society labeled as criminals. A week later, Sarah returned to duty. Her bruises had healed, but the memory stayed fresh. She stopped by the diner near that same highway, hoping to thank them again. She asked the waitress if she'd seen the group. "The Angels. Yeah, they come by now and then," the waitress said. "Always sit in that corner booth. Leave big tips. Real polite guys, actually." Sarah smiled. If they stop by again, tell them Officer Mitchell says thank you. Later that day, she received a small package at the station. No name, no address. Inside was Red's jacket, cleaned, neatly folded, and a patch that read, "Respect earned." There was a note, scrawled in rough handwriting, "Stay safe out there, Angel." Sarah couldn't help but smile. For all the chaos and division in the world, there were still people who stepped up when it mattered most. People who didn't care about uniforms or reputations, only about doing what's right. Months passed, but that night became local legend. The story spread across town and eventually online. Many refused to believe it. A female cop rescued by the Hells Angels. It sounded too strange to be true. But those who knew Sarah, those who knew Red, didn't need proof. They'd seen the truth in the scars and the respect that grew between two unlikely worlds. Officer Mitchell continued her work with a new sense of courage, knowing that heroes can come in leather jackets just as easily as they do in blue uniforms. And as for Red and his crew, they continued their rides, loud, fearless, and free, but every time they passed that gas station, Red would slow down, glance toward the back lot, and remember the night they proved that even outlaws can have hearts of gold. Because sometimes, the line between good and bad isn't as clear as people think. Sometimes, doing the right thing doesn't need a badge, just the courage to act when others won't. That night changed two lives, a cop who learned to see beyond stereotypes, and a biker who reminded the world that redemption can ride on two wheels. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to subscribe, like, and share. You never know who might need to hear that heroes come in all forms. Stay tuned for more powerful real-life stories right here on our channel, where kindness, courage, and humanity take the spotlight.